button. That's why. All righty. Becky, I'm going to hand it to you to go ahead and introduce Laura.
Okay, so I'm so excited that Laura is able to join us tonight. I am one of her big fans on her Pure Dog Talk podcast. I have to tell you that the first time I ever saw Laura, she was in the ring with a beautiful Spinoni, and I was awestruck by how lovely she was. And both Laura and I believe it was Adele. And so I said to myself, someday I've got to meet that woman. And then when I found out she was doing these podcasts, I started listening to her. And especially it was great because every day I would take a walk in the woods and I would listen to a podcast, and hers was one of my absolute favorites. I learned so much walking in the woods. You just cannot believe it. And the thing that's so amazing about the podcast is Laura talks about all kinds of things related to dogs, things that I would have never dreamed of researching and finding somebody to talk about. So I am so pleased to have Laura with us tonight, and I'm going to let you take it from there. And anything else you'd like to tell the fans about tonight, that would be awesome. Laura, thank you.
All right, you guys, I'm super honored. I love me an otter hound. One of our very early, I think it was, I had this written down, episode number 100 and something was actually with Joellen Gregory about the otter hound semen bank that's now being taken by AKC and enhanced to be something that's available to all breeds. And I loved it. I thought it was fabulous. So I'm just really thrilled. I know that Katie is one of our patrons and Barb is one of our patrons. So this is just such a great opportunity. So thank you. Okay, Pure Dog Talk is the voice of purebred dogs. We are the first purebred dog podcast. We are still the only purebred dog podcast that is primarily a podcast. It is all about all the things to do with purebred dogs. We talk to the experts in a variety of fields. We talk to the legends of the sport. We are now at 500, I'm not even sure, 560 some odd episodes since 2016. And in these over 6 years, podcasts have gone from what I said when someone asked me to host this podcast. I said, what's a podcast? I know what you're talking about. And the woman who had the actual vision for Pure Dog Talk was a woman by the name of Mary Albee. Mary is a stunt coordinator in Hollywood. I think she's now kind of semi-retired. But at the time, I was looking for an off-ramp from being a professional handler. I was a professional handler for about 25 years, and I was a professional handler with not a very good body. And anybody who knows what a professional handler does, physical weakness is not one of the things that's a real benefit as a professional handler. So I had way back in the day, so my family got involved with purebred dogs because my father told me when I was 12 that if I would just get rid of these bleeping horses, he'd buy me any purebred dog I wanted. I'm relatively certain that turned out to be a not really the trade-off he wanted. So I said, okay, fine. And my first purebred dog that I wanted was an English setter. And so I got my very first English setter from a woman who is still breeding English setters. And I see her every now and then at the dog shows. And my first English setter's name was Edwardian Secret Love. And my father told me that whoever could make her come to her name first got to name her call name. And I wanted to name her Amy for Amelia Earhart because that's what I was studying in school. And I thought Amelia Earhart was ridiculously cool. And my father was just a rotten human being, and he cheated and he used food. And so she went to him. And so he got to call her Edsel after the ugliest car ever made his statement. Poor Edsel. She was not beautiful. She tried really hard, but she wasn't. She was beautifully bred, but she was from one of the very early litters of parvo puppies before we really had anything to vaccinate or treat parvo. She survived, but she was not super healthy and she was not super beautiful. She, on top of the parvo, she at one point, I don't know, fell in my grandfather's swimming pool, got pneumonia. She lived for 3 or 4 months in one of my brother's sweater vests that we cut down the top and then like safety pinned on her. She was just tragic, poor thing. At any rate, so we had, we sort of became the dumping ground of all the sporting dogs in Douglas County, Oregon, which is where I grew up. My father had field trial labs. So long before I did anything else with purebred dogs, I was out throwing bumpers in a white lab coat and scummy cow ponds and maggoty ducks for the field trial labs. That was my childhood. I might have been scarred for life. It's true. It's true. Later on in my childhood, my mother, when I got the English setters, my mother decided that she wanted her own breed. And so she acquired our first Clumber Spaniel. And so my parents became very, very, very deeply involved in Clumber Spaniels. The first national specialty I ever went to was the Clumber Spaniel National in 1985 in Ohio. I think it was maybe Ravenna, Ohio. And we drove across country from Oregon to Ohio with 4 people, myself, my parents, my brother, 5 dogs, in a stick shift maroon Dodge, like cargo van that my father had built the crates and the beds into, and we couldn't stay in hotels because my parents were really poor. And so we drove across the country, and it was a really cool adventure as a kid because we put a big map of the country right on the dining room wall, and we picked up all the places that we wanted to go see. Like, you guys have all done, I see you guys' faces, you've all done this. And so we went to Mount Rushmore and Crazy Horse National Monument and Bear Country, USA. Which, PS, if you go to Bear Country, USA in the springtime, that's breeding season for bears. So taking a 16-year-old there might not be PG rated. I'm just going to throw this into the universe. Anyway, so we all got the flu, and it was amazing. But those are the kind of memories that you have when you have purebred dogs and you go to your national specialty. And you travel across the country and you live through unmitigated hell, right? And bad things happen and great things happen. And that was my childhood. From maggoty ducks and lab coats to Bear Country, USA in the spring. That was a rather twisted childhood that I grew up in. And so I told Don Rogers, any of you who have been around long enough to remember a dog handler by the name of Don Rogers, Don and Pat Rogers were kind of like my aunt and uncle, and they showed dogs for the woman that we got our first Clumber Spaniel from. So Sarah, you'll know Jody Davidson, Don and Pat showed dogs for Jody. And so the first couple dogs that we got from Jody that were not, spectacular, I could show them, but we needed Dawn to come in and, do that pinch hit and get the majors. And so that's who raised me in the dog show world. And I told Don Rogers when I was 13 years old that I wanted to be a professional dog handler, and Don lost his ever loving shit. No, no, you are not going to be able to, you are way too smart. And so on the adoptive council, I went to college. And when I was done showing my parents my family's dogs, I showed our dogs all through high school. I went to college. I got a degree in journalism, actually a degree in communications, but I took that to be a newspaper reporter. So I was a newspaper reporter for weekly and daily publications. And then after a variety of things, I moved to Seattle. I worked in marketing for a credit union, and I decided that a corporate job was distinctly not for me. And I, instead of shoving my boss off the top of the building, I quit. It seemed like the right answer. And so I started working freelance. And about that same time, I started showing dogs again for other people. And before long, it was not very much time before I was making more money showing dogs than I was doing marketing and communications and all that kind of stuff. I did during that time also work for one of my clients. We did self-guided audio driving tours. And so we would do driving tours of national parks and national forests, including Mount Rainier, Mount St. Helens, the Lewis and Clark Trail, and a variety of other things. So I learned how to, during that, write for the ear, which is a very, very different writing style than journalism. Trust me, it's a big change. So all of these things, growing up, breeding dogs, being a professional handler, being a journalist, being in audio and sound design. In 2015, my mom passed away, and I was kind of like, woohoo. And my mom and I had done dogs together my whole life. And when she lost, I was a little bit unmoored. And along came Mary Albee and said, hey, I love this idea that you're trying to do some education stuff. I'm trying to do some education stuff. Let's try and do some education stuff together. And that was where Pure Dog Talk came from. And a lot of the other things have sort of fallen by the wayside, but Pure Dog Talk is going strong. We're at 500 and, as I said, 60 some odd episodes. We have about a little over, right around 1.5 million or a little bit more downloads over the course of the last 6 or 7 years. We've got double the number of unique listeners that the American Kennel Club has Breeders of Merit. We have talked to literally the most important people in the sport about the most important topics that you can name. And I love doing it. I absolutely love my job. I get to talk to smart people about cool things in dogs. Like, really? That's terrible. And as Christian Menelopoulos said to me when I interviewed him, he's like, you're one of the 10% of people that actually makes a living doing a podcast. I'm like, yes, actually I am. I have corporate sponsorship that pays me. I have people who are patrons who pay the corporation. So Pure Dog Talk Inc. is a corporation. So the people who are patrons pay that, and they pay those bills. The producer, the website designer, the website hosting, all of the sort of overhead and maintenance bills are paid by people who support it as patrons, and the sponsors pay me. So it's pretty amazing is what it is. And I really do enjoy it. When I was a handler, I showed a lot of, if you will, difficult dogs. I made my living working with dogs that not everybody else could show. And so I really have a lot of insight and expertise in working with those breeds. I showed primarily sporting, working, and hound, although I had also a few toys and terriers along the way. A number of best in show wins, both in dogs I've bred and in client dogs. So, I mean, it's a pretty good life, man. That's what I'm saying. In terms of podcast episodes that I think you guys would enjoy, I would say absolutely go back and check Joellen's episode that we did. I had pulled it up on my other computer and my mouse died. So sort of a sadness. So hold with me here for a second and I will get you an actual number. But the good news about the Pure Dog Talk website, which is puredogtalk.com, you can keyword search it. And so there's this little magnifying glass that we're all familiar with searching. And if you put in the word Otterhound, it will come up with all of the episodes that say the word Otterhound, for example. So if you have other things that you're interested in learning about, you can do the same thing. So episode number 151 is about the Otterhound Semen Bank. We also have a variety of topics that say Otterhound in them, and they all come up in that. So I guess my point would be, if you want to learn something about the episodes, by all means, stop by puredogtalk.com, put in whatever your interest might be in that little magnifying glass, and it will pull up all the episodes that talk about that. The really important piece to understand is that, so you got your podcast on Spotify or on iTunes or on Google Play or whatever, wherever you get your podcast, we are there, but it only has the most recent 200, maybe 250 episodes. There's a thing called the RSS feed, and that is what distributes podcasts out into the universe. And I have tried to have all 560 episodes on the RSS feed. The RSS feed does not like that. It keeps crashing. And so in order to reach the archived episodes that exist from the first 3 years of the podcast, you have to go to the website. So the thing to know is that today in 2023, I release an episode every Monday. I also have a live podcast on Facebook Live the first Tuesday of the month. But when I first started doing this podcast, when I was still handling dogs full time, I had 3 episodes a week. And once I got through about a year of that and said, this is crazy, I still had several years of having 2 podcasts a week. So it's only been in the last couple of years that I've dropped it down to 1 a month, or 1 a week, sorry. And so those 560 episodes, a lot of them are old, and they include interviews with people like Ed Biven. I have 2, what I've been told, my understanding, I have the only existing recorded interview with Dennis Sprung, CEO, chairman of the American Kennel Club. I have recordings and interviews with people who are no longer with us, sadly. Steve Gladstone and Pat Hastings and Pat Lawrence and a variety of people who've left us, that if it was not for the podcast, we would never hear their voices again. And so that's really, really important to me. And so one of the things that I think about when I'm doing the podcast is that I am preserving the living history of purebred dogs in our exhibitors and our breeders, but also that purebred dogs themselves are living history. And every single breed recognized by the American Kennel Club or FCI or wherever represents a very specific time and a very specific people and a very specific geographical location. And that Otterhound in your living room is 100% direct line to 300 and 400 years ago to the dogs that were ridding otters from the streams in their native land. And so that piece, that understanding of purebred dogs as living history and our role as curators of the purebred dog, whether we are breeders, whether we're exhibitors, whether we're simply fanciers and owners, we are curators of the purebred dog. We are in charge of taking that continuum from before to tomorrow. So I am an AKC breeder of merit. I'm a retired PHA handler. I'm also now an AKC judge. And I feel like each one of those roles that I've played in this fancy is part of that continuum. And one of the things that I feel the most strongly about the podcast is that I'm able to preserve that living history for people who will come after us. And I think that that's really, really, really important. So, a couple more quick pitches. I'm really crappy. As a matter of fact, I was just talking to my social media person about this before we came on air, about how terrible it is, how bad I am at self-promotion. Like, I am so freaking bad at this. Like, I'm really bad at it. So there's lots of people out there charging you a lot of money for a lot less information than I give you for free. So there's that. So there is a patrons group. I think I mentioned it earlier. Barb and Katie are members of that group as well. This is a group of people that pays, 10 or 20 bucks a month to have access to Pick My Brain, to a private Facebook group, to all kinds of various and sundry retreats and fun things that we do that other people just don't get. So that's a thing. Mentoring, we call that. And I think that mentoring is something that is sadly lacking in this sport. And I am very happy to be able to do it. In fact, Katie, can I put you on the spot? Is it gonna like freak you out if I put you on the spot? Okay. I really need people to hear this, and I've used Katie's comments before in other things, but this is really important to me. This is what matters to me. This is what means something to me. This is what I leave behind. Go, Katie, it's you. I know I totally did not prepare you for this. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. So I found Pure Dog Talk. I was going on my phone looking for different podcasts, and I found Laura's, and I don't remember exactly what episode it was, but it was somebody that was kind of telling their story of how they started breeding and how you go into it wondering sort of like, are you okay? Is it okay to not know what you're doing? Is it okay? Is there other people that don't know what they're doing? And then hearing these stories of people that became, pretty powerful in the world of purebred dogs, meeting or hearing like Laura's own personal story and everything kind of gave me that courage to kind of take the leap. But I think everyone knows who my Penny is, and and it was really thanks to Laura, and then being a member of the patrons group. Laura's been an amazing resource for everything literally any question I've ever had. Either Laura or someone in the group can answer it. It's truly been amazing, and the history behind it. And I mean, you're looking for an amazing group and supportive, and that mentorship that Laura was talking about, it's amazing. Like, I don't know another word to use.
Community, I think, is a thing. And it's something that so many people that are new to purebred dogs talk about. Like, they're scared or they're upset or somebody's mean to them or whatever in their breed or not in the breed or whatever. The thing about the patrons that I have insisted on, and I think Katie, you can say I'm reasonably good about it, is everybody is supportive. This is an absolute judgment-free zone. This is a supportive environment. This is literally a safe space.
Yes, I would say that.
Question you
I
can
feel
ask.
anything, and I'm never judged. Anything from what food to give a puppy that eats too much to to
You walked
question-
through a lot with Kellogg and Post, I'm just gonna say.
they eat way too much. But anything to how to enter a dog show to puppy questions to literally anything. This group is just supportive, and there is no most welcoming dog people for new people that I've ever met.
And that's, to me, if I don't build anything else to build this library and that community, I'm 100% okay with dying tomorrow. Like that means something to me. And so yeah, the amount of the type of education that I was talking about doing or thinking about doing when I retired from handling, I was really thinking more along the lines of educating juniors that wanted to be professional handlers and I have created an entire dogmanship course that is about animal husbandry and training and raising, breeding, and eventually getting to showing dogs, because as we all know that have been doing this for a minute, showing dogs a lot more than running around in left-handed circles in a pretty suit. And so I feel very, very strongly about that. And I do a lot of education on that topic. That was what I had. Dogmanship predates Pure Dog Talk, frankly, but I just didn't have a platform for it. And with the podcast, I've been able to create that platform. And so that makes me really, really happy. We have an ebook, audiobook available now, and another one that I'm currently working on. The one in existence is Auntie Laura's Guide to Show Dogs. Auntie Laura's Beginner's Guide to Show Dogs, I think. It's very much a wonderful item. It costs like $9. You know what I'm saying? To give to your puppy people that might consider having, going to dog shows or whatever, how to find a dog, how to, who to buy a dog from, how to stack your dog, how to move your dog, how to count championship points. They're like really super basic stuff that was the foundation for 10 episodes I did in the podcast was this. So that's in existence. I'm also working on an actual book, like a real life in print book, which is a little verklempt, talking about On the Shoulders of Giants and putting together the breeding advice of some of the most successful and amazing breeders from literally around the world who've been on the podcast, and kind of trying to pull that together is my project for this year. If I could have 30 seconds home alone, that'd be great. So I'm very excited about that project that hopefully someday we will all see in print. And basically I would say we actually have t-shirts that say it no matter what it is. I almost defy you to find a topic that there is not a podcast for that. People ask me all the time, well, do you have a podcast? Yes, I do. Do you have a podcast? Yes, I do. Do you have a podcast for that? Yeah, there might be 3 of those. So that's a thing. As well as a lot of people that are new to the sport, they don't. One of the things that I hate the most on social media is that thing called the dog show judges report card. Like, I hate it with a violent, screaming, purple passion. And I believe that the way to learn about judges and what they like is to actually talk to them. And so there are, I don't even know how many dozen interviews with the most popular, the smartest, the most up and coming, the longest, I mean, lots and lots and lots and lots of judges. I am very careful about who comes on the podcast. And because I know all the people, I can be. And I don't just choose anybody, whether it's handlers or judges or anybody else. I am extraordinarily careful. If there's someone that I think has something important to say, they can come on the podcast. If not, they don't come on the podcast. Very, very rare exception. So if you want to hear from Jem Reynolds or Ed Bivin or Peggy Beisel or you name it, I literally, the most amazing judges are on this podcast at some point or another. You can keyword search their names. So grooming, handling, a lot of genetics. There's every single month, the first Monday of every month is Dr. Marty Greer, and she does the veterinary voice. And we have covered everything from this week's topic was bladder stones to neonatal issues to bloat to cardiomyopathy, food mediated cardio, right. I like all the stuff. Fortunately, she's the veterinarian, not me. And so I really appreciate her work with this podcast because she has literally saved dogs' lives. And I have the emails from the people saying, "Thank you, Jesus, for you and Marty Greer. I just listened to this episode and my bitch piled and I knew what to do because I just listened to the episode." Again, that's something, there's not very many people that can say that. And so God bless Marty. And I am grateful every day for the opportunity to be able to share the information that I do. That's what I got. Becky, anybody who's got questions? I'd much rather like talk to people than at people. So ask me questions.
We don't have any questions in the chat. So if anybody's shy, put your question in the chat. Otherwise, just open up your microphone and unmute yourself and go ahead and ask Lori any of your questions.
Jump in, people. Hi, Joellen. Becky, did you have anything?
So I want to say to everybody, I'm really excited that Laura is going to actually come to St. Louis and be with us. She's going to be judging our sweepstakes at our national specialty. And so that's going to be totally exciting. And we're very privileged to have her come and join with us. So that's something to really look forward to. Laura, I do have a question about what actually, first of all, do you have a favorite podcast that you ever did? And then do you have a podcast that like your scariest one that you were like really stressed out about doing before you did it?
Okay, I totally have an answer to both of those. So my very, 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 very favorite one that I ever did was probably with Jem Reynolds. He's just amazing. And I've always loved his judging, and talking to him 100% impacted how I think about judging. And the thing that he said on the podcast that is in my mind every single time I'm in the ring is that for those 2 minutes, that's my dog. And when you hear Jem Reynolds say that in this rich, beautiful baritone, and you see him and he's like towers over everyone. You know, he's got to be 6'6", 6'8". I don't know what he is. He's giant. And it's just, it tingles my spine to this day. And I think about it every single time I walk in the ring to judge dogs. For that 2 minutes, that's my dog. And if I have to say anything about not handling dogs anymore, it's that I miss all my dogs. I miss them desperately. I'm like, I still have 10 dogs on my property and it's not enough. Like, that's not enough. Definitely. I mean, I have a Chihuahua, a Pug, a Shiba Inu, 2 wire hair pointers, how many Spinoni? Like 4 or 5 Spinoni and a Fauve, Basset Fauve de Bretagne on this property. Not enough. Like, I need more dogs. And it's what I miss about being a dog handler, is that ability to be deeply personally involved with a variety of breeds and dogs, and to figure out how to make them tick, or, you know, like turn that extra little half a notch on the lock to unlock them. I love that. And so as a judge, that's my favorite thing. And that's what Jim Reynolds said to me that stayed with me longer than anything else. And the scariest one, 100% Ed Biven. So here's the thing that I'm going to tell you guys. Ed Biven has made a lot of people cry across the dog show world, myself included. And when I did this podcast with him, I said that to him. Like, you made me cry. But talking to him, listening to the podcast and doing the podcast interview with him made me understand him as a human being in a way that there was no way I could have done prior to that. Literally no way. And because I did that interview with him, all 300,000 people who've ever downloaded the podcast can hear the same thing and can have that same understanding of someone who in our sport is both an icon and an object of abject fear for many of us. Like, I picked up my pug dog in his ring. Oh my God, it was horrible. It's terrible. I cried. Don't ever do that. But the ability to talk to these people face to face and sit down and really have that conversation. Like, we don't do a lot of talking with in our sport. We do a whole lot of talking at. And when you're able to talk with someone, it opens avenues and opportunities that didn't exist before. And so after my conversation with Ed Biven, I didn't cry, I'm just going to say. The next time I showed him a dog, I was so much more relaxed, so much more comfortable, because I understood. And again, I've been doing this for my whole life. This wasn't my first time in the ring. And I was still pee my pants, freaked out, nervous every time I had to go in Ed Biven's ring. And it was only after I had that conversation with him that I was able to take that deep breath. Be like, okay, I got this. I know what he's about. And that is life-changing to people in this sport. The ability to understand and know from their own mouths what people think in the ring. Judges aren't hatched from an egg. They all start somewhere, right? I started somewhere. Everybody started somewhere. Ed Biven started somewhere. And his story is amazing. And once you hear it and understand where he's coming from, you can consequently walk in his ring. Okay, I get it. And it makes all the difference in the world. And when you are more relaxed, your dog is more relaxed, and they show better, and everything flows more seamlessly. and even if you don't win, you have a better time if you're not like freaking out and crying, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. So one thing that you didn't mention when you were talking about your groups and your special sponsors, you didn't really talk about the outings that you do around the country. And that's something that I think some of our people would be really interested in hearing more about.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. Like I said, I meant to have a whole thing made and my computer freaked out. So I'm literally talking to you on my laptop instead of my super ridiculously expensive computer I just bought myself for Christmas. So okay. So with the patrons group particularly, but separate from it also, I do a variety of speaking engagements around the country. I do handling classes and I help people. I like to think of them as handler courses. Like I'm not teaching the dog, I'm teaching you. And if I can teach you, then I can promise you your dog will do better. So handler courses. I do presentations on structure, on, sort of breeding 101. The patrons group has retreats around the country. We've kind of spaced them around. This year, I'm a little overwhelmed, but it sounds like we're going to have 3 patrons retreats this year. I'm so excited. So one of them will be in July in Washington State with the Tacoma Kennel Club show, where I'm doing some classes for junior showmanship kids, and I will do some retreat things for the patrons as well. One of them will be with the IKC shows in August at McCormick Place, and I'll be doing handler courses, and hopefully my goal is to, I'm getting this nailed down, I believe we're going to get to do a live studio audience podcast. So that is something, right, super fun. I've really enjoyed. We've done a couple of those in the last few months. Those have been great. So you're in the live studio audience like at your, you're like at a TV show. It's like Oprah, but it's me. I'm not as cool as Oprah. I'm just saying. No, and I'm definitely not as rich as Oprah. So and the third one that we're talking about putting together is actually in Texas in October. And so each one of those that we're trying to put together now is associated with an all-breed show. And it would just be like tagging a shoulder day, right? Adding an extra shoulder day, come in early. We've done things like getting an Airbnb and everybody comes and stays together and we cook food and hang out and drink and have campfires and do fun stuff. So the patrons, we also have once a month, we have After Dark, which is if you are someone who likes to let your hair down a little bit, I got you. And we talk and share and cry and laugh and do all the stuff, usually with an adult beverage in hand. That's a lot of fun. So there's just lots and lots of opportunities that are available for the patrons. I mean, that's what you're paying for. And, I mentioned I was talking to my social media manager before I came here, and I had seen, I won't say a competitor, but someone else who does a similar type of thing, and their mentor program and whatever, and it's $50 a month. I'm like, $50 a month. Like this person, like, what? No. So, yeah, struggling with that, but I'm trying to do better. Ours isn't $50 a month, is all I'm saying. I mean, like you can if you want to, but what else? What else we got, Becky?
Yeah, any questions from the audience?
Absolutely.
If you do, unmute your microphone and feel free to ask Laura your question.
Joellen, I just want to know if we're making babies yet.
Oh, we can't hear you, Joey.
Can't hear you, babe. It's a whole nother project. It doesn't have anything to do with otter hounds. Yeah, we got no volume for Joey. Sorry, man.
Turn up the volume on your computer. No?
'Cause it
Oh, it's
doesn't
not working.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So-
Hold up a
The
sign that
dog
says
ate
no,
her
yes.
earbuds. I'm pretty sure that's the dog ate my earbuds. Okay, Katie, did you have something, babe?
Yeah, so I think I know what you might say, but I think it's good for everyone else here. If you could give one or two pieces of advice for someone brand new into the fancy, what would your advice be?
Oh, that's a great one. So you've got your first dog, you're thinking about going to a dog show or whatever it is. Number one, have a mentor. If it's your breeder, great. If it's not, find one. Number two, I don't know, join the patrons. Find friends who are not in your breed. I really strongly believe that's one of the reasons the patrons group is so successful, is in our own breeds, whether it's wire-haired pointers or Spinoni or otter hounds or wherever it is, we're competitive against one another, right? Like, I want to win, you want to win, I want to win. No, mine's better. No, yours is better, right? So when we are outside of our breed, we can be supportive and cheer each other on without any jealousy. And in a hyper competitive sport, that's so important. And I think, we talk a lot about, new people coming in, they get scared off the first weekend because somebody's mean to them. Right. Well, let's don't be mean to them. Like, stop it. And B, help them find a friend. Be a friend. Like, if you see somebody putting their armband on their right arm, don't laugh at them. Go over and say, hey, can I help you? You're going to go here and you're going to go there and just follow me around the ring and it'll be all okay. Right. It's not hard to be nice. I mean, it really isn't. And so I have a whole 12-step program that Kitty's seen that is the like New Year's resolution, right? Isn't that right? Isn't that what I call it?
Yeah.
It is 12 steps to a happier you in the dog fancy. And it is fabulous. And so it goes through, and each month you're supposed to do X, Y, and Z all the way from January to December. And some of those things include congratulate the people who win. Even if you hate them, do it anyway and mean it. Okay. Because, you can hate people. It's okay. But you still have to say congratulations and you still have to mean it. Because even if you hate them, they're happy. Like, you don't get to take that away. It's not cool. Go watch somebody else's breed. Just sit there and watch, I don't know, golden retrievers, whatever. Learn, take your standard, read the standard, watch for an hour, somebody else's breed. Have a picnic. Like, I saw some stuff from Florida. I don't know who was down in Brooksville, but Brooksville had this huge group of handler people mostly, but whoever, and they were feeding, like, I don't know, 100 people. There had to be killed a whole pig for all the bacon they had. Have a social gathering that has nothing to do with who won. We have lost our way in this sport in a lot of respects from when I started in the 80s. And when I was a kid, this was a social event. We went and we stayed all day and we hung out and we helped other people and did whatever. We didn't just what did I hear somebody called it, a drive-by dog show, right? Like, I drove in, I left my car running, I ran around the dog in Winter's Dog, I left. Okay, that's great, but what'd you learn? Focus. So the more you learn, the more involved you become, the more you enjoy the sport. And I think that is my goal, is to get people drug in, kicking and screaming, like, no, me, and be nice to them, and make it fun. So there's my advice for what it's worth, Katie. Did I touch on all the ones you thought I would get?
Yeah, especially it's kind of awkward to talk about in friends outside of your breed group, but being in the patrons group, we do this we don't do it as regularly as we used to, but the review of the different of the old dog shows, and judging them.
Yep.
And there's a difference between going over structure with people within your own breed and going over what structure means in other breeds, and it kind of deepens the understanding of what you're looking at. So
100%.
yeah, it just changes the perspective of it. It's not necessarily better or worse or whatever. It's more of just a deeper understanding without that, oh no, what are they thinking of my dog, or vice versa.
100%. Okay, I see Sarah and Shanna both have their hands up. Sarah, I'm starting with you just because you're on the left. I'll get to you, Sarah. Shanna.
I love it. Hey, thanks, Laura. You know, when we think about dog shows and how long we've all been in dog shows, if you could wave a wand, what's one thing or a couple of things you'd say, gosh, if we could do this differently, what would that be?
So I think that's a great question, Sarah. And I think what I was just talking about, the camaraderie and the family, like I refer to the dog shows as our tribe. Like, this is my tribe. This is my family. And a member of my tribe that I don't necessarily love, that I see broken down on the side of the road, I'm still going to pull over and I'm still going to help them. That's what I mean when I say tribe. And I would rekindle that. I would build that stronger, because it is literally woven into my DNA at this point. My parents, my parents are both gone now. The rest of my family thinks I'm crazy. I am the ultimate black sheep of the family, and it's okay, because I got a lot bigger family here.
Right.
The other thing that I would say, I would walk away, redefine the divisions that have erupted in the last, say, 10 or 15 years, between kennel handlers and professional handlers, and just get over it. Like, literally just get over it. Professional handlers taught me the vast majority of what I know. I have devoted my life to teaching what I learned as a professional handler to people who are not professional handlers. Taking away that angst makes an enormous difference in one's enjoyment of the sport. So
Mhm.
those would probably be my two things.
Super. Thank you.
Absolutely. Shanna,
Hi,
how are
Um,
you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm all right.
Just kind of, I guess, a little bit of an odd offshoot from Katie's question. I'm rather new to the dog world, and as much as I love the sport, I'm finding that there's a little bit of a difficulty for me, because I'm Orthodox Jewish and Sabbath observant and kosher observant, and most of the shows are on weekends when I can't travel and can't attend events.
Mhm.
Do you have any recommendations of ways to get involved, ways to meet other purebred enthusiasts that don't involve being able to go to shows?
Okay, so Shanna, that is a super fabulous question, and not one that I get a lot, so I love it. First of all, find a local kennel club. So I don't know where you're located, but there's going to be a kennel club near you.
So I'm actually in New York City,
Okay.
and surprisingly, it is crazy how little there is for dog people here. I can't even get to a dock diving club.
Long Island. I'm going to tell you Long Island or
Long Island is a 3-hour drive for me.
Connecticut. That's where else I would go. Greenwich.
Yeah,
You get to Greenwich.
they're both 3 hours, 2 hours, depending on traffic. And
Right.
they're only open from 10 to 4 on weekdays.
So, right. So
Oh,
what I would say is, and feel free, Joey or Sarah or Katie, any of these guys, Becky, any of these guys can give you my direct contact information, and I will help you find
Thank you.
as close a space as I can. Okay.
Thank you.
But what I would say is dog clubs hold their meetings during the week, right? And you work during the day, so you need an evening sort of thing. Is that what I'm understanding?
It would kind of depend on the situation, because I'm Yeah.
Okay, no, that's fair. So what I'm saying is, yes, there are places and ways. There are virtual ways, like come join us on the podcast. This is one of the ways to help you learn without having to be at a dog show on a Saturday or Sunday, right? Like I understand, right? You've got your stuff. I will tell you a story. I'm not entirely sure her particular denomination or faith, but there was an incredibly famous Rhodesian Ridgeback handler a number of years ago who refused to show her dog on Sunday. And she was campaigning a top special, like the number one dog in its breed. And she refused to show her dog on Sunday. Can be done. So I'm saying, there's Fridays, there's Mondays,
So the issue that I found is not as much the fact Sundays are fine for me. Saturdays and Friday nights are the issue.
Okay.
The issue is more that because most of the shows are not local to me, it would require traveling for weekends where I won't have access to kosher food.
Right?
And I'm in the city. I'm in Manhattan.
Yeah. In the city. I mean, PM me and we'll work on it. I'll find you stuff.
Perfect. Thank you.
And keeping kosher, like you're gonna have way more experience than that than me. Take your food. Like, I don't know.
Right.
But you can find events and situations that you can participate in. And I will 100% help you figure it out.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Not a problem. Anybody else have questions? We're kind of running into the end of our time here, so I don't want to keep y'all up late at night. What, Joey, what you got? Are you there?
I think you can hear me now. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, I was just trying to say before, not yet, but soon.
Okay, good.
Now we'll all be in suspense, Joey.
There's a lot of suspense here. It's a secret.
Yeah.
It's a secret mission with me and Joey.
Okay, awesome. That's great. So everybody, I'm so glad you were able to be here. I hope Laura's looking forward to seeing us in St. Louis.
I'm dying. I'm so excited. Did I mention it's also the Fauve, the Basset Fauve de Bretagne? It's their national that weekend.
Awesome.
So I'm dying. I'm so excited. So.
Oh,
And the Beezers.
And yes,
the Beezers.
And the
Beezers
Beezers.
are there. There's that's always a huge weekend. I've been to that show when it was the Pharaohhound National. So yeah, it's a great set of shows. So I'm very excited.
Well, we are all looking forward to seeing you in person down there. And I want to thank you so much for coming on with us tonight. And I think that if possible, Robin will kind of talk us through the end. Are you there, Robin?
Oh, yep, I am. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you everybody for joining, but Laura, especially big thank you to you for all the insight you provided. It was wonderful. I will be putting this recording on YouTube in the next few days, and I will send everybody that registered the email with the link. Feel free to share that if you want.
Share it with me too, because then I can share it on Pure Dog Talk channels.
Or on the list. Yep. And then all of our YouTube videos are on the OtterTalk Club of America channel. This is number 28. So feel free to check out our other videos. And
I just want to say what I really want to do is have somebody from the OtterTalk Club of America come on the podcast and talk about what an incredibly cool learning opportunity that you're providing to your members. Like, I've been president of my national club. I've done every position on my national club. I have never seen anything this innovative, and I love it. And I think other national clubs should be paying attention and trying to figure out a way to do something similar. So I just give you mad props. And I want somebody to come and talk about what a cool idea this is and how you made it happen.
Thanks. I totally agree with that. It was not my idea. It was Sarah's idea. I kind of helped with the naming of it, and I'm sure that she got the idea a little bit from your podcast with and Becky as well, because I remember when we were in the infancy stages of thinking it out and planning it out, and your name and your program was definitely talked about as far as, let's do something like that. Let's, there's lots of ideas there. So I think although it wasn't my idea, I bet it had some influence on Sarah when she thought it up, as it was her brainchild. But yeah, we've gotten a
Love it.
lot of
All right, Sarah, you're booked, man. You're booked. You're gonna have to come on, you and Becky.
and we've gotten a lot of really great feedback, both from members of our club that have watched it, and from like other clubs, like, why can't we do that?
That's what I'm
I don't
saying.
know.
Like, there's 200 breed clubs out there. Like, everybody should have this. And I think, I mean, this goes back to what I was saying before. Making people part of the tribe,
Yep.
making it inclusive, not exclusive.
Yep.
Right? There's a reason people buy doodles. It's because nobody will answer their damn phone call.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's really nice to have the library, just like you have your 560 plus titles in your library. It's really nice for us to have it in our library. So even if somebody couldn't join on that specific night,
Right.
we have
Absolutely.
that available to them. And you know, the
Exactly.
channel has grown and grown as far as viewership and stuff like that over the last you know, every year has gotten better than the year before.
Yeah.
So we've been doing it
Well,
for 2.5 years, so
I
doing great.
tell people all the time that the podcast is taking 19th century knowledge, 20th century knowledge, and presenting it to people in a 21st century format.
Absolutely. I agree. And there's a lot of YouTube fans out there. So I think people, YouTube is a platform that people are comfortable with.
Yep.
As well. And we've had a lot of speakers that can do screen shares and whiteboard.
Well, I'm happy to come back and talk about something more interesting than just me. So I'm
We
saying,
love you the way you are, Laura. No need for screen
Yes.
shares for us to love you. So anyway, so it'll be on YouTube as soon as I can get it there. And I'll send everybody an email with it once it is. And it'll remain in our library as well for future viewing. And everybody's more than welcome to share it with whoever they want. It's open to the public. So thank you, Laura. Thank you all for coming. I'm going to go ahead and turn the recording off now. And there we go. Good night, everybody.
good night, everybody.